So The Invite was directed by Olivia Wilde, and it was written by Rashida Jones and Will McCormick, and it stars Olivia Wilde, Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton. And it's about these two couples, one played by Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen, the other played by Penelope Cruz and Edward Norton. And one of the couples invites the other couple to a nice dinner, and it dives into these conversations about their marriages, their lives, their outlooks on life in general. And when one of the couples proposes something that's just completely out of the blue, they re-examine their life choices. So this is a movie that I've been hearing about for a bit, and I didn't know too much about it. I do like everyone in this cast. Also, apparently this movie is a remake, a movie that's been remade in other countries and such, so it's like, well, okay, so we'll get our own version of this story. And also, with Olivia Wilde as a director, I remember really liking her first movie, Booksmart, which I thought was really funny, really engaging, and I thought the two leads were really good in that movie. And then her follow-up movie, Don't Worry, Darling, which had a much bigger budget and a much larger scope and such, I felt was very disappointing, and I was curious to see what she would do with this movie because it's a much smaller movie, more comparable to Booksmart than Don't Worry, Darling. And the trailers themselves were trying to hide a lot from this movie, like not really saying what this movie's really about, and I will try to avoid it as much as I can. So, having now seen the movie, I can say this movie was actually pretty solid. But also, having seen Evil Dead Burn right beforehand, it's like somehow this movie was even more uncomfortable. I don't get that, but I thought it was actually very interesting. But overall, I will say this movie is a pretty interesting time, and definitely a movie that kind of blends everything very well. First off, I do think all four actors are good in the movie. Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde, Penelope Cruz, Edward Norton. I think all four actors, who are actually the only four actors in the entire movie, they each have a moment where they kind of have a moment where they stand out. Like, I think Penelope Cruz's is very early on. Edward Norton's is towards the end. Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen are kind of like going back and forth for a while, but they both get their own moments of shine and such. And I do find it fascinating how the couples are kind of portrayed. One is not really in love like they used to be, and you kind of see how they grow in throughout this movie, and also kind of seeing like how the other couple is throughout this movie, and showing like how they kind of seem like the perfect couple, but like as the night goes on, it's like, oh no, they're not. I do find that very fascinating to see. Also, the movie has a very tense atmosphere throughout this entire movie. There are so many moments where it's like I kind of need to lean back a bit. It's like, again, having watched Evil Dead Burn right before this, it was definitely an uncomfortable experience as well. And I think the movie blends everything very well. It's equal parts funny, it's equal parts of comedy, drama, and even a horror movie at times where it's like, okay, this movie is definitely it's definitely a very unique movie to experience because like it blends everything so well. Well, maybe not the drama, but I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. And I do like movies where it's like, it kind of has like those tiny moments where it's like, maybe it's just like a moment of dialogue where it's like, okay, they kind of just throw something out there, but then it comes back and later on in the movie and it's like, okay, this kind of takes on a whole new meaning now because you kind of realize, oh, it was the exact opposite of what they were doing earlier. Like, there's some moments where it's like they're mentioning something about how like one of the couple says like, oh, they're not gonna like this, I'm not gonna like this, and I really hate this. But like when the other couple compliments it, it's like, oh, that's great, I really like it. It's like it kind of shows a lot more about the characters than you realize, and I think the movie actually does that very well, where it has like all these tiny moments that do come back later on in the movie. And I do say, and even though this movie's a remake, admittedly, I have not seen any version of this movie. Again, I did not know this was a remake until like I was looking into it and such. But the movie is very unpredictable, where it's like I kind of didn't know where exactly it was going to go with the premise and how they were going to handle a lot of things that were going to be in this movie and such. The movie itself is also very funny. I would say for the majority of the movie, up until like the last 20 minutes, this movie is actually really funny. So many lines where it's like, and again, I would say Seth Rogen is actually not the funniest person in this entire movie. He does have some funny moments here and there, but he is actually holding himself back a little bit. I found that very fascinating. And also, I think the music itself is also, for the most part, well done. It can be a little too much at times, but for what they're trying to go for, I thought it was very effective. It set the tone perfectly, and it was kind of a fun time overall, despite some things that kind of happened in the last 20 minutes. But let's talk about those last 20 minutes, because those last 20 minutes are going to make or break this movie. And I think I get what the movie's trying to go for, and it definitely kind of becomes more of the drama aspect that I was mentioning with the blending of genres. And while it doesn't come out of left field, it can be a bit jarring at times. I will also say the music itself, while very much like, they set the tone perfectly and it kind of matched the mood of the overall movie, I would say I think the music itself was not really all that original. Like it was just something that was like, what are the lyrics to? Like there's some songs where it's like, oh, I recognize the tone of this movie, or I recognize the song itself. What are the lyrics again for this song? And I felt like if they had more of an original score, I think that would have been a little bit better. Also, I think the movie itself could have gone farther with some of the things they talk about. Like they do talk about a lot of things in this movie, some that I won't repeat on here. But I feel like they could have gone farther with like the whole idea of like film is like, show don't tell, and I feel like the movie tells a lot but doesn't show a lot, and I felt that was kind of disappointing. Also, even though the couple portrayals are very interesting and like how one couple is by the end of the movie and how the other couple is by the end of the movie, I feel like they could have gone farther with one of the couples because it focuses on one of them for the majority of the movie and the other ones are kind of just not there. But I don't know if that's going to like alter the movie overall. I feel like it could have, but it definitely was like something noticeable. It's like, maybe you could have gone a little farther with the other couple rather than this couple, which, don't get me wrong, they're all well acting. They're all acting very well in this movie. But like I feel like they could have maybe had some moments where it's like you could have. I feel like this is going to be one of those movies where it's like if I go back and watch it, I will definitely see some things that I didn't notice the first time. But then again, this is one of those movies that's like very uncomfortable. I don't know if I can really watch it again, but I would definitely recommend watching this. So overall, I do think all four actors do a fantastic job. I do think the couple portrayals are very interesting, even if it's a little uneven. I do think the atmosphere is really good. It does blend all the genres very well. The music is good, but I also feel like it could have been a little bit more original. It is very predictable, very unpredictable, very funny, and I do think the movie could have gone a little bit farther with some things rather than just say some things. It could have gone further with actions. I do think this movie is interesting, kind of a really somehow more messed up take on something like, say, Marriage Story, which I won't spoil too much about it, but I feel like I'm trying to be vague, but I feel like I'm not being vague enough. But I would definitely recommend this, and definitely more in line with something that Olivia Wilde did with Booksmart rather than something she did with Don't Worry, Darling. I will give The Invite 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what is the last movie you saw that made you extremely uncomfortable? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.